Hello everyone. So welcome again to our general mathematics tutorial. So today we're gonna discuss about solving rational inequalities. So if you're ready, simulan na natin. Okay, so before we start solving, let me give you the steps or the rules in solving rational inequalities. Number 1, write the inequality with a single rational expression on the left hand side and 0 on the right hand side of the inequality. Ibig sabihin nun, lahat ng expressions ay dapat nandoon sa left hand side tapos equated sa 0. Next is determine the meaningful numbers by setting the numerator and denominator equal to 0. Kaya siya meaningful kasi ito yung mga numbers or value ng variable na magiging 0 yung equation at magiging undefined yung equation. Next is use the meaningful numbers to separate the number line into intervals. Ang gagawin natin dito is ilalagay natin yung dalawang meaningful numbers natin dun sa number line. And then itetest natin yung mga numbers na yon if they make the inequality true or false. And the last is we have to express our answers in interval notation. So if you're ready, magsimula na tayo. Our first example is 2x over x plus 1 greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so we're going to write the inequality with a single rational expression on the left hand side of the inequality and 0 on the right hand side of the inequality. So magiging 2x over x plus 1 minus 1 greater than or equal to 0. Subtracting this expression, you need the LCD, and the LCD is x plus 1. Dividing the LCD by each denominator, so you have x plus 1 divided by x plus 1 is 1 times 2x, you have 2x. We know that any whole number has a denominator of 1, so dividing our LCD, x plus 1 divided by 1 is x plus 1, multiply by 1 is x plus 1, but you have to close it in open close parenthesis so that later we can distribute the negative sign to the x plus 1. Performing the operations of the inequalities, we have 2x minus 1 over x plus 1 greater than or equal to 0. Combining like terms, we have x minus 1 over x plus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. Next is we are going to determine the meaningful points or the meaningful values of our inequality. Okay, so kaya siya tinawag na meaningful points or meaningful values kasi ito yung mga values ng variable na magiging 0 and undefined yung solutions nila. To determine the meaningful value, set your numerator equal to 0. So that would be x minus 1 equals 0. So transpose lang yung negative 1. Therefore, we have x equals to 1. Sa denominator naman, we have x plus 1 equals to 0. And then transpose 1 to the other side. So we have x equals to negative 1. The next thing we have to do is we have to test our meaningful values, which is 1 and negative 1. If it is part of the solution. So para magawa natin yan is we're just substituting the values to our inequality. So we're going to use the first one, which is equals to 1, then substitute natin and then perform the operation. We have 1 minus 1 is 0 over 1 plus 1 is 2 greater than or equal to 0. So when you divide 0 by 2, that's 0. That is equal to 0. So meaning to say x equals 1 is part of the solution. The next meaningful points that we're going to test is negative 1. Same thing, you have to substitute that one to your inequality. Okay, so substitution, we have negative 1 minus 1 over negative 1 plus 1 greater than or equal to 0. We have negative 2 over 0 greater than or equal to 0. So dividing that number, we get undefined. So meaning to say, negative 1 is not part of our solution. Here we're going to plot our meaningful points, which is negative 1 and 1 to our number line. And then let's see if the intervals will be part of the solution. So let's see what will happen. Okay, now I am shading 1 because 1 is part of the solution, and -1 will not be shaded because it's not part of the solution. Okay, so now let us list down all the intervals that we have. So here we have x that is less than -1. In the middle we have x that is greater than -1 but less than 1. So in the right we have x that is greater than 1. So after, we're going to assign a value in each interval. So here we are assigning -2. In the middle, we're going to assign x equals to 0, and then to the right we have x equals 2. Okay, so this particular values in each interval will be substitute to our inequality, and then if it satisfy our inequality, it means in that particular interval will be part of the solution. But if will not satisfy our inequality, that interval will not be part of the solution. Okay, so substituting our first value, which is x equals to -2, we have -2 minus 1 over -2 plus 1 greater than or equal to 0, and then we have -3 over -1 greater than or equal to 0. We have 3 is greater than 0. It means in that particular interval will be part of our solution. Okay, so using 0 as the value of x for our next interval in our inequality, so let us substitute. We have 0 minus 1 over 0 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. We have -1 over 1 greater than or equal to 0. So we have -1, and it's not greater than or equal to 0. So it means in this particular interval, it will not be part of our solution. Okay, so in our right side we have x equals to 2. Okay, so using that particular value in our inequality and then substitute, so we have 2 minus 1 over 2 plus 1 greater than or equal to 0. We have 1 over 3 that is greater than to 0, meaning to say this interval will be part of our solution. So the solutions are 1 up to positive infinity and -1 up to negative infinity. Okay, so now finally we are going to derive to our answer, but we have to use, or we have to express the answer in interval notation. So we have -1 up to negative infinity, but we're going to use open close parenthesis for -1 because -1 is not part of the solution. Union 1 up to positive infinity, we use bracket for 1 because 1 is a part of the solution. Okay, that's it. If you think this video lesson helped you, please like and subscribe para updated ka sa mga videos na i-upload ko pa. Thank you so much. Bye-bye!